Hey guys, it's Josh here, and today we are going to talk about the number one thing I see on the lesson tee every day because I'm sick and tired of seeing it. And I'm mostly sick and tired of seeing it because I do it myself, and that is a lack of structure on the backswing. So what does that mean? What is a lack of structure on the backswing? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's when you get up to the top, your body's all over the place and your arms are folded like this. Your left arm's probably folded, your right arm's chicken winging, the wrists are all out of place, the club is all out of place, your hips are probably swayed, your body's probably too low, all of those things. That is a lack of structure. And I call that a folding like a lawn chair. So you go up here and then you fold like a lawn chair and everything kind of comes into you. The best players in the world, they are nice and turned and very wide with their arms. And so why is that helpful? Why is that structure specifically very helpful? Well, that's because it mimics impact fairly well. So if we go up to the top, we have a big, nice coiled turn, and the arms are fairly wide. Then from there, they stay in front of our body, and as we begin to torque the ground the other direction, you can see our arms stay fairly in the same structure. They lower a bit, the right arm straightens a bit. So, vice versa, if we were lacking structure like this, and we came down, and generally speaking, our arms are fairly straight at impact, we are throwing everything, and there's a lot that can go wrong. That can cause a lot of inconsistencies and also a lack of power. This is the example I always give for this. If I'm gonna throw this 8-iron as far as I can, my arm's gonna be about 90 degrees as I throw this. What it won't be is it won't be bent like this, and vice versa, it won't be super straight, because if it's super straight, I also won't be able to create very much power. So there is about a right degree. The other example I always use is other sports, like basketball. So we go and first time we shoot a layup, we stand on the block, they hand us a ball, they go hold it with our strong hand, get our elbow underneath, and just aim at the top corner of that little square on the backboard, flick of the wrist, and hit that. And you go, you mean you don't shoot it like that? And they're like, no, 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 you don't shoot it with both hands, you just flick the wrist, extend the arm to create spin. You go, okay, so how do I shoot a 3? Well, you use your legs. Anytime we play sports, first time, we just end up using our arms and our upper body. You know, you swing from baseball for the first time, you throw something for the first time. Instead, we need to learn how to drive from the ground and use our arms to help us. So it all comes from the body as the driving force. Now, are the arms important? Of course, but it is fairly natural, although I hate using that term when it comes to teaching, it is fairly natural to use the arms as a source of power, and fairly unnatural and takes a lot of skill to use the hips as a force of power. What's going to help with that is having good structure. The last thing I'll use as a defense behind why this is the biggest issue in golf is that a lot of the problems we don't like come from a lack of structure, whether that's a sway, because that's a folding lawn chair look, whether that's coming steep and over the top. Watch this. If I go to the top and I fold my arms in and I begin to turn, that is dead over the top. If I'm wide and I begin to turn, that is nice and shallow. I didn't do anything except keep my structure. And on top of that, a lot of the throwing that a lot of people dislike in their golf swing, that comes from because, like I said earlier, if we have too much angle, arms are fairly straight in impact, we have to throw all these angles out in order to get down to the ball. That can create a lot of inconsistency. So we want to make sure we keep our structure, then from there, we'll have a much easier time getting down to the ball, creating power, so we can hit it straight and far. This is the first step, having good structure on the backswing. So let's get into what good structure is. So I'm going to split this into 3 parts, the hips, the shoulders, and the hands. The club can kind of be anywhere, as long as your structure is good. And we see like Roy's a little across the line, you know, John Rahm gets a little laid off, but all their structure is fairly solid. So what is that structure? Well, the overview is once we get up to the top, we want to be fairly centered with our hips. We want our hips to be turned about 45 degrees. Our shoulders, or our chest more specifically, to be turned about 90 degrees. Our shoulders, because our left shoulder comes out, right shoulder lays back, to be about 100. And our arms, right arm to be about 90 degrees, wherever it's at, whether it's high, whether it's low. As long as you have that structure, you should be okay. Now, you have personal preferences. I like my lead arm on my shoulder plane. Doesn't have to be. Scotty Scheffler, Dustin Johnson, guys' hands are fairly high. So there is no one way to do the positioning of the arms, but the constants are, generally speaking, there's about 45 degrees of hip turn, 90 degrees of chest turn, 100 degrees of shoulder turn, and about 90-degree right arm fold at the top. Other than that, everything else is very subjective, up to however you like to do it, how you like to feel. And what we're gonna do, is we're gonna take the stick and we're gonna put it in front of your lead toe and behind your trail heel, at the very least. Now, if you're on a mat, which I am not, very fortunate, shout out to Candlewood Country Club for allowing me to do this. You take this stick, you point it at one corner of the mat and point it to the other corner of the mat. That is about 45 degrees. Again, that's where we want our hips. So I'm gonna put my stick down, I'm gonna imagine about 45 degrees, and I'm gonna try to get my hips to line up with that stick, right? And you can even put another stick in your belt loop, I'm just gonna go like this, and match it. And that's how you know you're at 45 degrees. You can also look down and see that you aren't swaying in this direction. You have to just turn 45 degrees. Then from there, I want you to do this stretch. I always say this, I've said it in videos before, I'll say it again. Learning the golf swing is like learning yoga. What do you do in yoga? You just hold a position, your body thinks it's gonna die. You just hold that. And then over time, your body goes, you know what? I'm not gonna die. And it starts to adapt to where you're at. That is how you learn the golf swing. A lot of times, if you just hold a certain position, it is just like yoga, using your breathing, using your muscle memory, you will start to become more adapted to where you're at. That is exactly how you learn the golf swing. So we're gonna go up, our hips are gonna get to 45, and we're gonna keep our head very centered. I'm actually gonna stare at that face on camera, and I'm gonna get my shoulder to meet my chin right there, right? So there we go. That is how I am going to learn the 90 degrees in the shoulders. And then on top of that, from here, I'm gonna push my left arm out, make sure it's somewhat straight, and I'm gonna get my right arm to 90 degrees. And there we have it. That is a structure that we want. Hold that for 5 seconds, get some muscle memory, come back down, and try to mimic that. Now, believe it or not, that was just the overview. Trust me, I'll fire through the rest of these. So our hips, that is the first step. The other part of the hips that I want you to do is that as you get your hips, I want you to dig down and almost feel like your feet are almost gonna twist out this way, but it doesn't. That is the part where you'll torque the ground and it'll give you a little bit of hip flexion and the ability to coil into the ground and coil the rest of your body. If you just twist like this, you won't have enough to be able to use the ground in order to torque the rest of your body. It'll look something like that. It'll look very soft. Instead, you want to start twisting your feet in the ground so then now you have the torques in your body and in your core in order to create good, useful structure. The second part, the shoulders. Now, we go, dig 45 degrees with the stick, turn your shoulder into your chin. From there, here's the other part. This right shoulder needs to lay back. So from here, I want you to feel like your right arm stays fairly straight and try to turn even more. Right arm stays straight, turn even more. Do that about 3 times. There we go, and that's how you're gonna feel the shoulder laying back. The chest hasn't actually moved if you look at that. The chest is done turning. Now you're getting the torque in your body, the shoulders to turn past the chest, which is what you need for that extra little bit of shoulder turn. And then the last piece is to make sure your head stays centered. That will end up extending your upper back, just like that. You don't want to stay down like this. You want your upper back to be centered. How do we do that? Well, the neck, this little bone in your neck, not that you guys can see that, is connected to your upper back. So by doing this and keeping your head centered, fighting your chin over your left shoulder, that will end up extending your back. So watch this. If I come back to setup, it's basically like this. I take my chin, I put it over my left shoulder like this, and then I turn. You can see how centered my head is and how much my upper back is working. That is the shoulders. I told you, I'm just gonna fire through these. I'm not gonna keep you guys here for too long. The last piece are the hands. Your hands can do whatever they want. Actually, that's a lie. I will make another video eventually talk about the wrists, but in general, your hands can do whatever they want. When you get up to the top, get your 45 degrees of hip turn, making sure you're torquing the ground a little bit. Your shoulders turn, your left shoulder meets your chin. I don't know how I'm doing this, talking while doing this. You're gonna hold that. You're gonna make sure you 3 times pump that right shoulder back as you stay there. And the last piece is the right arm just needs to be about 90 degrees. You can look at it, see where it's at. It could be back here. That's Rory McIlroy, Bryson DeChambeau. It could be over here. That is Tiger Woods. That is Max Homa. But the right arm has to be about 90 degrees. Whew, let me catch my breath here real quick. I know this seems like a lot, but the thing is, most of you guys already do some portion of this. And if you don't, take it piece by piece in the order we talked about. Start with the hips, make sure they're 45 degrees, dig into the ground, and hit some for a week. Your structure will get better already. Then from there, once you feel like that has become a habit, now add the left shoulder meeting the chin. That is step 2. Do that for a week. Then add the right shoulder laying back. That's step 3. Do that for a week. And then a month later, you can work on your right arm and you'll have perfect structure. Lead arm high, lead arm low, whether you want the right arm behind you, right arm in front of you, club across, club laid off, it doesn't matter. You see guys on tour, they're all over the place with the club. You see Rory McIlroy way across the line, across the line. Jon Rahm laid off. Yet, if you look at their structure from this face on camera, they're both fairly similar. They both have about 45 degrees of hip turn, really torquing the ground. They have a nice full shoulder turn, 90-ish degrees with their chest and about 100 degrees with their shoulders. And the right arm is about 90 degrees. How is Jon Rahm so short? He just lowers it like this, right? He just doesn't swing his arms back. So he goes, boom, and he's done. Rory McIlroy, he goes a little bit further. Those are the main differences. The rest of the structure is exactly the same. And so if we start to do these drills, which I need to do too, because I get too narrow with my right arm, if we keep doing these drills, 45 degree hip turn, shoulder turn, and through, and we get better and better with these, I will no longer have to see this every day, 7, 8 times a day, where people go like this and look like a folding launcher and jump up and do all of these funny things. Instead, we'll all have good structure, nice and coiled up, so we can hit it far and straight, have the structure that we already need coming into impact. It's almost as simple as just pushing into the ground and turning from there, almost. Of course, it's not that simple, but this is a really good start to be able to play golf. This is what the highest level players have. And this is what the lower level players with higher handicaps don't have. The higher handicaps look fairly sloppy. The lower handicaps always seem to look really coiled up and strong. So, and you could do it too. You just have to take some time, discipline yourself to go through each of these drills and each of these feels, and then you'll have a good structure. It's not about position. It's about, I guess it is, but it's about these 3 specific pieces being where they need to be. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, please comment, please subscribe. Thank you to Candlewood Country Club for allowing me to do this. And I will see you guys next time. I'm gonna practice here for a little bit more. Let's see how this one is. Yeah, dead left. That's okay, don't hit the pad.